Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Friday, the 2nd of June, comes to you from London. And the US pulling out of the climate deal last night is certainly big news, but hasn't had a massive effect on markets. And we see here the dollar index is still just struggling to get into bullish territory. We're just teetering along the bottom at this 97 level. So whilst we're bullish long term, we're still bearish in the short term. And the euro is the same picture really, bearish in the long term, although it's just trying to recover here. We need to reverse these down columns. That's maybe not this big one, but certainly these ones before we could start. When we see targets coming off, then we could start to say we're bullish. We've still got downside targets here. And we do have an upside target of 3%, and that has reversed this trend on the point and figure charts. The medium term is looking pretty good for the euro, and short term we're back above the cloud. Japanese yen, the dollar is strengthening quite significantly against the yen overnight, so we're really seeing a big move there. And sterling is back in this 128 area, just struggling to get above 130. Bearish long term still, of course, but the short term is looking better. Euro sterling, we're seeing here that euro has had the upper hand. And Euro Swiss, we did actually activate this downside target of 120 yesterday, so we are seeing just bearishness in sterling against the Swiss franc, and against the Australian dollar, sterling looking stronger over the last few days. So that's quite interesting. The S&P 500 index had a good day yesterday. We're now at 2430, so we're really clearly in the 2400s. We've activated this upside target on the medium-term chart. Significant, really. 30%, 29% upside to 31, 33. So it looks like the S&P will go through 3,000 in the medium to long term. We've got an upside target on the long-term chart of 2780. So a long way to 3,000, but we've activated that target nonetheless. If we look at the Nasdaq, much the same picture there. We are also just activating that target. And the short-term targets on the Nasdaq, we've got 8% upside, both on the medium and the long-term charts. So that's increasing the likelihood that we will see quite a run in the Nasdaq. The Dow Jones breaking to new highs as well last night, activating 4 and 6% upside targets. Just not quite breaking out of this range, but looking more and more bullish all the time. The Russell 2000 had a very good move last night, so the broader US market now looking pretty bullish as well. And looking at the futures today, up 0.2% on the S&P future and up 1/3% on the Nasdaq future, indicating that we might see quite a good opening level as well. FTSE looking pretty strong too, not quite breaking out on the short-term chart yet, but it is making new all-time highs on the weekly and daily charts, so looking pretty good. And the FTSE 250 just a bit sideways the last few days, but looking strong. The DAX had a good move, and we're now bullish on all three timeframes, so that market's looking better, and the Nikkei also breaking out, looking stronger as well. So markets generally looking pretty good. We're seeing here this Hang Seng looking bullish. Shanghai is bullish above the clouds and recovering. Medium term still a little bit worrying on the Shanghai market. And if we look at India, that still looks very, very bullish. The Australian market has actually just turned a corner, found support on the medium-term chart, and just starting to break through. We said yesterday that Brent would fall below $50. Well, it's actually done that. And we see on the short-term chart now we've got downside targets of 49, 48.15 and 48.29. So crude oil is very much in the down phase now. Remember, crude falls the second half of the year. The big question now is, will we come back below this $30 level? Will certainly look like we might come back and test it. If we look at WTI, making new lows there as well. US nat gas just struggling above the $3 level, bearish in the short term, but we just really are seeing now quite a few short-term downside targets. Long term we're still bullish, but at the moment it's really selling off quite significantly there. Just looking at some of the softs, if we look here, coffee, we see that's looking pretty bearish. And cocoa also just bearish in the long and medium term. So, and if we look at sugar, that's been very, very bearish, falling away quite strongly, bearish on all three charts. Taking a look at gold, gold price just back into bearish territory on the short-term chart here. We still have this upside target of 1293. And the medium and long-term charts look fine, but we are just seeing a sell-off there in gold, and we're seeing much the same with silver as well. Taking a look at 10-year yields, treasury yields, we're sitting at 2.2%, so just bearish in the short and medium term. Sentiment has changed a little bit there. Looking at Apple, didn't run that dramatically last night, but still looking pretty bullish. Google was fairly flat as well, but the medium and long-term charts are stellar, as are Amazon charts, looking pretty good all round. Facebook just pausing for breath as well, and Microsoft much the same. So tech didn't have a massive move last night, but we are just seeing a move across the board. That's it for today. Until next week, have a great weekend. Happy charting. See you then.